Hi, I'm Kathy Callahan-Brady, and welcome to In the Trenches. And today we've got a very special guest with us. This is John, and you're going to have to forgive me. I'm probably going to butcher your last name. Schveibinz? Schveibinz. We got it.
Thanks.
Old Line Capital.
That's right.
Yeah. Thanks for coming. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So one of the things that this gives me, it gives me the opportunity to really thank you publicly for everything that you do. Your advice that you give to our clients is just invaluable. And really, I always say that you guys are our secret sauce of FTSE, because how many startups get high-level CEOs to be able to help guide them as an advisory board? Pretty much none. So thank you so much for all that you do.
I enjoy it. Yeah. It's actually fun.
I know, I love that part of my job.
Yeah.
And then hanging out with you guys is even more fun.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about Old Line Capital Partners.
Old Line Capital, yeah. It's a new venture capital firm, probably what you might call micro venture capital. Mm-hmm. We're very much focused on young technology startups. Mm-hmm. Early stage is what a lot of people call it. Mm-hmm. So we're not so much concerned about revenue necessarily, but we do like to see some traction. Mm-hmm. We're about 9 general partners right now. Mm-hmm. We are raising a small fund to go along with mm-hmm. that. So it's just getting started. We've made one investment so far, mm-hmm. and we're looking for young tech startups throughout Maryland, actually, and mostly focused on Maryland, mm-hmm. but a little bit of Northern Virginia and some DC.
Awesome. Remind me to invite you to our Accelerator Pitch Fest.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's coming up.
Awesome.
Yeah, we're pretty excited about that. Tell me a little bit in terms of, from a capital perspective, working with our clients, pretty much all of them are raising funds. When they come in, they pretty much all say that they're ready to go out there and raise funds. What would you say are some of the sort of tips and things that they need to look for that will really say whether they're ready or not to be raising funds?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, I would say that doing your homework first to figure out exactly what it is you might be raising funds for is mm-hmm. probably the first step. And involved in that process, of course, is laying out your product roadmap and figuring out what it's actually going to take to get your product, mm-hmm. into the market. And in getting it into the market, you need to figure out mm-hmm. what is your market. And so once you get started in that process, you mm-hmm. end up getting yourself into all these different areas. And venture capitalists or even angel investors mm-hmm. are going to ask those questions. They're going to ask, well, where are you in your process? Mm-hmm. And I think so a methodical process is mm-hmm. important in getting prepared. Yeah.
Very cool. I always say you only get one chance at a good first impression. You don't want to blow it if you're not ready.
That is true. Yeah. I mean, we try to be very, mm-hmm. Accommodating. We're working with younger folks a lot of times, mm-hmm. and people who are maybe less experienced in business. Mm-hmm. So our goal is to try to lend a helping hand and mm-hmm. actually get involved.
So do you, once you have invested in a company, how do you work with, probably a better question is, how do you work with that company? How involved do you get? As involved as we need to be. We are all tech founders mm-hmm. and all have had exits. Mm-hmm. So we understand the business side of things, but we're also technologists. Mm-hmm. So we will actually, help and get our hands dirty a little mm-hmm. bit and help with the technology, or at least help to avoid, some of the mistakes right. in getting that prototype built. Mm-hmm. And then we'll also do regular advising and trying to help to provide a little bit of accountability mm-hmm. For the startup. Mm-hmm. So again, all process-oriented sort of stuff. Well, you made me think of it because you said when you're starting with earlier companies, they don't have tons of experience running companies.
That's right.
So you look for individuals who are pretty coachable to be able to help?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's so important. Yeah, the coachability,
we don't expect that people are going to just take our advice,
Right.
right,
Blindly,
and
right.
just go do it. But we at least expect that we're going to be able to engage in some sort of a constructive conversation around that advice.
Right.
So
That makes a lot of sense. I feel the same way when it comes to Fitzy. Why bother bringing somebody in if they're not coachable or looking for education and advice?
That's right.
Just go do it on your own.
That's right.
So that makes a lot of sense. We spend so much time on this topic, so I love having you come here. So I'm trying to think in terms of what would be the best question to ask you. What's the number one thing you look for when there could be other red flags, but you still go forward because there's this one piece of this business or founder or technology or team, and you go, we got to try this one.
I would say that the people, the team, the people is the most important part. And I say team because it is important to have a business that is more than just one person, because it doesn't matter how great that person is, how well they understand the technology, unless they have at least one or two other people, good people around them. It makes it very difficult to get a business off the ground. So
We couldn't have scripted this better, because that's always one of my pet peeves. So we go into the advisory boards, and when a founder comes in and just talks about the baby, like over and over and over again, I'm like, no, we need to be talking about the business, and we need to be talking about you as the CEO and you as the founder.
Yeah.
Not so much you can have greatest idea in the world,
Yeah.
but then not be able to execute it.
Yeah.
So.
So it's a rare person, that makes a great entrepreneur. It's someone who has an ego, self-confidence, really understands what it is, a vision for what it is they want to do, and yet some humility also in understanding that they just don't know everything, and they really do need to have some strong, partners, with them.
I love these interviews because we never script them, and you never know where they're going to go, which is very cool. So thank you. Is there anything else that we can think of that they should really be looking for? If they were going to come to you, what would that ideal company founder look like? And you go, yes, I want to invest in them. You're saying technology, so not biotech, but
Yeah, so our focus in technology is not necessarily because, technology is it. It's because that's what we're comfortable with, right?
Sure.
So you invest in things that you know and you can assess.
Yeah.
So we look for, unique technologies, but really it comes back to business fundamentals. It's about things like, is this product going to be interesting to some customer audience, and so we like to hear when these founders, even at an early point in the process, have gone and talked to potential customers, and they've gotten feedback, and that their product or their prototype that they're building is somewhat based on some of that customer feedback.
Sure.
I think those are things that we like to hear. And that the market is big enough that there's really a market there to support it. Right. Competition isn't as much of an issue as a lot of people think. Quite often we'll hear people say, "Well, I have no competitors," and we're like,
that drives me crazy."
That's actually a red flag. I mean, because if you have no competitors, well, then you either have like some brand new technology that no one's ever heard of before, or you haven't really done very much research, because everybody has competitors.
Absolutely. There's always doing what we've always done too.
Yeah.
Yeah, very great advice. So something you make me think about, though, that I'm constantly looking at is, as you know, starting and running a business is probably the most challenging thing you can do.
Yeah.
And constantly trying to figure out whether they've got that grit, that gumption, that whatever it is to make it to the finish line, because as you know, there's going to be lots of roadblocks, lots of different hurdles.
Yeah.
What about you in terms of you starting your business? Because you had one before this particular business. What kind of hurdles, what kind of roadblocks did you run into? And what kind of advice can you give people to, I think it's wired in the DNA and it's part of the character, but.
It's, there's a, you're going to make mistakes. And sometimes those mistakes feel in the pit of your stomach like, oh my gosh, I've just made the worst mistake I've ever made. But then you deal with it and you move on. You find a path forward. And boy, I mean, my partner and I made our mistakes. But we learned. We learned along the way. And so I would say, sticking with it. A startup business can be something that can be overwhelming. It can really take over your life if you let it. But if you do, and you let it ruin everything else around you, well, then your business isn't going to survive either. So, I mean, I had to learn how to be able to work 60 hours plus a week, but, still have some sort of a life. Yeah. So that was an important lesson for me along the way. And just sticking with process. I really, I mean, over the years, I've just come to really appreciate how important it is to just keep your eye on the ball, put schedules together, try to achieve them. You never will, but at least maintain that process. And I've always leaned on that as a steadying, sort of structured way of getting through things.
Wow. Well, thank you. I'm sitting here listening, sort of playing back our conversation, realizing all the different pieces of advice that you've just given, and you just hit the nail on the head. So thank you.
Oh,
I appreciate that. I look forward to seeing you actually in a few weeks. I think we've got tea coming up here pretty soon. So thank you again.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you guys for listening to In the Trenches. Stop by our website, fitzy.org, and you'll meet the rest of our advisors. Have a great day.